Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one of the most intense and heartbreaking we've covered so far. It's a story about trust, deception, and a past that never really stayed in the past. A husband thought his wife was just reconnecting with an old writing project, but it turned out to be something much darker. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Hi everyone. Let me start by saying that my wife and I have always been pretty open with each other, maybe even too open when it comes to our past relationships and personal histories. I'm currently married for the second time. My first marriage ended due to infidelity, not mine, and though it was tough, I came out of it stronger. From that relationship, I have a son. My wife also has a daughter from a previous marriage. We've been together for 5 years now, and honestly, our blended family has been thriving. TLDR, my wife was contacted by her former writing partner, someone she also dated briefly years ago under complicated circumstances. I'm starting to worry this old connection might stir up unresolved feelings. So as I said, we're very open about our past. My wife was previously married to a man who didn't take their vows seriously. He was a musician who often spent time on the road and had a pattern of being unfaithful. She eventually discovered a series of messages and emails that revealed he had been involved with multiple other women. One of them even became pregnant. Trying to salvage the relationship for the sake of their daughter, my wife decided to reach out to an old friend, someone she'd known online for 7 years. Let's call him Chris. They had originally connected through a shared love for storytelling, and at one point they had started writing a novel together. Though they'd never met in person, they were close in that creative way that builds over years of collaboration. She told me that when she reached out to Chris during that difficult time, he was incredibly supportive. He offered her guidance, listened, and even shared advice on everything from communication to what legal options she should consider. Along the way, they found themselves drifting back into their old habit of bouncing story ideas off each other. The writing partnership picked up again, and some lighthearted flirting began. Since they lived across the country from each other, it seemed harmless at first, a way to cope and escape emotionally. But over time, my wife began to feel like her marriage was beyond saving. According to her, they came close to finishing the book they'd been working on, but then I entered the picture. As we began dating seriously, she started distancing herself from him. She admitted that it felt inappropriate to keep someone from her past so close while she was committing to something new. So, she gradually stopped responding to his messages, which were still focused on the book, and stopped contributing to the project altogether. After a few months of this, he got frustrated and ended up blocking her on everything. Their communication went completely dark, which brings us to about a month ago. Out of the blue, after 4 or 5 years of no contact, he reached out to her again. He had recently contracted COVID and had a severe health scare. Apparently, during their time apart, he had rewritten the book on his own, gotten it published, and even released a sequel. He told her that he had nearly died, and the thought of leaving their shared story unfinished troubled him. He wanted her to know that if anything were to happen to him, he'd like the rights of the series to go to her, since she was there from the beginning and understands where the story was truly meant to go. Honestly, that part seemed thoughtful and sincere. But then they started talking more. It turns out he's now working on a comic adaptation of the series and invited her to join the project. He already had a lot of artwork done. She was genuinely excited, showing me character designs, explaining who everyone was, their backstories, and what elements she thought he didn't quite get right. She also read the updated book and started pointing out all the names he changed, characters that were added or removed, and how the plot evolved. I knew they had written together, but I didn't realize they had built such a rich, fictional world. And I'll admit, seeing how passionate she is about this again makes me realize how important it always was to her. She seems like she's considering joining the project, and while I want to support her dreams, it's starting to worry me. Every time they've collaborated before, things have gone beyond the creative. And even though their work does include some romantic and mature themes, it's not just that. There's clearly a deep history between them. I've never considered myself the jealous type, and I don't want to get in the way of something that lights her up like this. But I can't ignore the pattern. I'll admit, I looked at some of their messages. From what I saw, He's keeping it professional and focused on the project. But she's asking about his personal life, like whether he's seeing anyone now. He replied that he's too busy and that relationships just complicate things. She responded by telling him he should try dating again and even joked that celibacy doesn't suit him. Now, my wife and I have always been open about our past relationships, so I know a few things, like how her ex-husband was a terrible partner, and how, once when she was tipsy, she said about Chris, "Don't let a great connection make you think it'll be a great relationship." So now I'm stuck. How do I move forward? I know she went through a lot in her past marriage, and that her choices came from emotional pain. But the fact remains, she and Chris have a shared past, one that turned intimate more than once. I met the guy. He seems decent, but that doesn't erase the history. I want to talk to her about my concerns. I want to be honest, but I'm afraid I'll come off as insecure or controlling. I want her to have her creative outlet, truly. She glows when she talks about this book, like it's a part of her that she buried a long time ago. I want her to have that part of herself again. But I also don't want this to turn into something more. Again, I've started gathering evidence, screenshots, location data, and I have a meeting scheduled with a lawyer tomorrow. TLDR, it turns out their conversations about writing were just a convenient excuse to reconnect. They've crossed a line again, and I believe it's been going on for longer than I realized. My wife's ex-boyfriend came back in her life under the pretense of finishing an old writing project they had once abandoned. That project, which he later finished alone and found success with, was the perfect cover. I initially believed it was just nostalgia or creative passion. I wanted to be supportive. She seemed so genuinely happy to reconnect with something she once loved, storytelling. Eventually, I sat down with her. I expressed that I was happy to see her reignite her creative spark and that I'd be glad for her to explore it further, even as a profession. I also gently brought up my concerns about working closely with her ex, Chris. To my surprise, she agreed. She told me she had the same doubts, that maybe he was using the project just to find a way back in her life. She said reconnecting wouldn't be a good idea. At the time, that conversation gave me peace. It felt like we were aligned. No gaslighting, no defensiveness. But deep down, something fell off. Something didn't sit right. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I gave into my instincts and checked her phone. His contact was still in her messages, but the entire conversation was gone. Completely deleted. I had seen part of it just a few days earlier. That's when alarm bells started ringing. I went into her Facebook Messenger. There, I found conversations that left me stunned. She had been telling me about an upcoming work trip to Las Vegas, supposedly a short, 2-day professional event. I now know the trip was canceled due to health concerns weeks ago, but she was still planning to go, only not for work. In the messages, they were planning a weekend at a hotel just outside of town. They even joked about sending each other photos of other people's vacations in Vegas, so she could use them to prove her trip if I got suspicious. They discussed restaurants they'd go to, and how the full moon would look beautiful by the beach. It was all very intentional, carefully planned. Then I discovered something even more unsettling. He's not living across the country anymore. He's actually moved back recently and never told me. She knew. He sent her screenshots from Google Maps, showing where he's living now. That neighborhood is a 20-minute drive from our home. Suddenly, things she told me started falling apart. A few weeks ago, she said she had to pick up her brother from the airport, but now I know it was him. The lies weren't just emotional. They were logistical, timed, layered. And then there was a line in one of his messages that knocked the wind out of me. It wasn't even written with shame or secrecy, just casual confidence, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, we're just friends. Haven't seen you in 8 years, and 20 minutes later, we're reconnecting like no time passed. Best friends, maybe. That was all I needed to see. There's no ambiguity anymore. I don't know who this woman is. The person I've shared 6 years of my life with has carefully orchestrated something behind my back that I still can't fully process. The deception wasn't impulsive. It was structured, deliberate. And that terrifies me more than anything. Tomorrow I speak with a lawyer. Update. The truth unfolds, and it's worse than I imagined. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my earlier post. Your support helped me pull through a very dark mental place. The messages, even from strangers, gave me something to hold on to. I'm grateful more than I can express. Since then, I've started collecting and saving everything: texts, screenshots, photos, anything that confirms what I now know. This wasn't just a risk of something happening. It's already been happening. For months. The trip she claimed was to visit her mother a few weeks ago. It wasn't. The trip to Las Vegas for work? Canceled weeks prior, but she's still pretending it's happening. I found conversations where they were planning to stay in a hotel nearby instead. They even discussed using someone else's vacation pictures to make it seem legit if I asked about it. He recently moved back to our city, which she never told me. In fact, I only discovered this when I saw him sending her a map of his new place. Things that never made sense before now line up perfectly, like the time she claimed she was picking up her brother from the airport. That was him. They've clearly been in touch long before this writing project came up. The moment that shattered what was left of my sanity was reading a message he sent her. He wrote something like, "We're just friends, right? Haven't seen you in 8 years, and suddenly we're together 20 minutes after I land. Best friends, maybe." There it was. The truth, laid out in the most casual, matter-of-fact way possible. It wasn't just emotional betrayal. It was physical. It was deliberate. It had been happening for months while she looked me in the eyes and smiled like nothing was wrong. I feel like I've been living with a stranger. Her kindness, her gestures, her words, all feel like part of script now. Something rehearsed. I've consulted a lawyer. I'm documenting everything. My plan is to confront her after the holidays, not because I want to wait, but because I don't want to ruin Christmas for our kids. But honestly, it's becoming harder and harder to keep up this charade. The more I learn, the harder it gets to stay quiet. Every time she laughs or talks to me normally, it cuts deeper. Earlier today, I accessed her email account from my car, using public Wi-Fi to avoid detection. They're using old messaging platforms to stay hidden. I found private photos and messages that are explicit and completely confirm the nature of their relationship. I won't go into detail because it's not necessary. The point is clear. They've been hiding this for a long time. Some of the things she wrote made my heart break. Not just because of what she did, but how calculating it all is. She talked about how she had to be careful not to mention him too often or talk too much about the writing, because I might catch on. She knew exactly what she was doing. And him? He's smug about it. He mocks me without ever saying my name. His messages have this sharp, cruel edge, like he enjoys the fact that he's taking something that doesn't belong to him. The amount of self-control I'm trying to maintain right now is beyond anything I've ever had to summon in my life. I won't do anything reckless. But the level of betrayal I'm experiencing is unlike anything I thought I'd ever face. I'm going to get through this. For my kids. For myself. But right now, I'm broken. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you would have done in this situation. Would you have confronted her right away? Waited like he did? Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We post new real-life stories every single day. Take care of yourselves, and remember, sometimes the truth hurts, but knowing it is better than living in a lie. See you in the next one.